Hi, I'm Nan Simmons and welcome to my garden. I am a whole food plant-based certified health coach, but I also have a In the Garden series. I've been a master gardener for decades and I've been a landscape designer. And I am today going to talk about salvias. Part of this series includes asking you what you want to hear about, and somebody said, tell me more about salvias. That's the sage family. And I'll start by saying they're part of the Laminaceae botanical family, Laminaceae family. And that's the mint family. So included in that, and I've got my little notes here, are the mentha subgroup, which means mint, but also we have in that family basil, hyssop, lavender, oregano, sage, rosemary, thyme, and the salvias. The salvias are easy to recognize because they have a square stem. You can put your finger on them. They have a square stem. They have a two-lipped flower on a stem, sometimes individually spaced, sometimes compact, so it's even hard to tell them, but they look like a cluster of families or of flowers. And the Laminaceae family plants, most of them have fragrant leaves. So I'm going to walk you around and show you the lavenders, or the sages that I have in my garden, and talk a little bit about them. I will preface this by saying I'm in Southern California, halfway between Palm Springs and Los Angeles. I'm semi-arid in the sunset gardening zone classification. I'm an 8 and a 9, mainly 9. That means dry, hot summers, mild winters with low rainfall, mainly in the winter, and by low we mean 9 to 15 inches a year. So it's a Mediterranean climate. There are salvias, and I'll show you one of them, that can be in cold climates. For example, one that will take the lower end of the 20-degree Fahrenheit range. Now, for some of you, that's not cold. If you're in a climate that goes down to zero, below zero, the sages will act as an annual for you. But you might find something here that you can relate to. If nothing else, just pretty plants. All right, I'm gonna pick this up in the front yard. Show you a view of my home and my garden. This little cottage house was built in 1941, just before World War II was declared. And after which, of course, they then built neighborhoods of sort of mass-produced homes. These were created individually. And I'm bringing you to a side of my yard to show you this. Look at this magnificent thing. This is Salvia canariensis. And it is, another name for it is Canary Island sage. I'm showing it to you on the other end of the fence because you can see how tightly packed it is. What's great about this, or what's interesting about Salvia canariensis, look at these beautiful flowers. You can see the silver pointed leaves, is that every year I cut it down to about a foot high, and it will grow to almost 8 feet high. So it requires room to grow high and to spread. So what's special about this? It's water wise. It adds silver leaves to the garden and this wonderful flower. So it changes throughout the year as it's getting taller, or from the point where it's just a big open space when I've cut it back. So that is Salvia canariensis. I'm going to bring you past some lavender and some buckwheat and some, oh, this is fun. That is verbena, lilacina delamina, kangaroo paw, that is wormwood. And I'll bring you to a salvia. This one is a Salvia guaranitica. You can see that kind of sword-like leaf. And what makes this particular salvia special, at least in my mind, is, I'm going to show you another one here, that gorgeous, deep, more than indigo, but it's described as an indigo blue flower. Now, this one is, the cultivar is called black and blue, because it defines what I can expect from it, and that is this deep purple and a growth of about maybe 4 by 4. But what it does that the species doesn't necessarily do is that it runs. It runs by underground runners, and it self-sows. I'm turning you around to Salvia guaranitica, the species, and can you see this big boy or girl? You can see the flower is quite different, but what is typical of salvias is that two-lipped flower. I'll bring you back to this Salvia guaranitica, where the flowers are more tightly spaced on the leaf, and I don't know if you can see that, but there's that two-lipped flower. Let's see if I can get that in bloom. Well, I mean in focus. Somewhat you could see it. So this, I cut back this last year to about 1 foot above the ground, and look how big and look how wide it is. These flowers, I don't know if you can tell that. Now, for example, this is a relatively fresh flower, and it has buds that are going to open, but a number of these are spent. These are empty flower heads. And so this is ready to be cut back. I'm going to cut this back again, nearly in half. Now, I wouldn't do that with a very woody salvia, like let's say a greggii, and I'll talk about that a little bit later. But the hummingbirds love salvias, butterflies love salvias, and they want fresh flowers. So by cutting this back, I'll renew the flowers, they will come back up again, and we'll have a fresh flush of flowers. This is another salvia. This is Salvia clevelandii. There's a Salvia clevelandii. Let me back up and you can see how large this has become. There's a Salvia clevelandii Winifred Gilman that grows less tall, less wide, but this one can grow up to 8 feet wide. On a recent video, a garden maintenance video, I showed how I cut this back so that I had room for my other plants. I could have planted this in space that I could have let it get as tall and as wide as it could. However, I will mention that in the wild, as these plants get larger and fall forward, fall over, the woodiness becomes very thick, they will end up just breaking and losing energy and self-sowing, but their lifespan is shorter. So I'm going to cut this one back quite a bit. But look at these. You still have, is this in focus? You still have the two-lipped flower. I can't get too close or it won't go in focus, but it's down the stem, a collection of the two-lipped flowers down the stem. And that is Salvia clevelandii. If I could create a way of passing on the scent, and you knew anything about California chaparral or California, chaparral is the hillside plants, low mountain plants, you would recognize this instantly. as a salvia and as Salvia clevelandii. I don't know if you can see, but it's covered by with bees. They're just loving it. And it's a California native salvia. Salvia guaranitica is a Mexican salvia. They call it Anise-Scented Sage. And this next one I want to show you. Oh, I should have simply shown you this. This is the Salvia guaranitica, black and blue, spreading all over. It's sort of enveloped this rose bush, and this one just happens to be the prettiest of all. Isn't that great? I will cut it way back when it starts to, oh, you can see what happens. You see that stick right there? I can break this off, or I can let a number of them bloom, lose flowers, and then cut that whole section down to bring it back down again, because I'm not going to let this get enormous. Well, this is another sage called Salvia leucantha. Salvia leucantha, Santa Barbara, is a cultivar that stays small, and it's a compact variety. This one is not Santa Barbara, but I keep it shaped. In my previous garden video where I was showing maintenance, I showed how I was cutting it back. But again, two-lipped, but very, very tightly compact. This is growing from behind the fence forward, and forward means east facing, and there's just too much competition for light in there, but I'll show you what it does. This one spreads like the Salvia guaranitica, black and blue, and it is spread from one side of this rose bush to the other side. So I have to manage it, or it gets wider and wider. That's why a lot of people will look for the cultivar Santa Barbara or one of the more recent compact Salvia leucanthas. But you see still the spear-shaped leaf, and this wonderful sagey fragrance, although this is quite different than the fragrance of the Salvia clevelandii. I'll show you the front of my Salvia guaranitica. Can you see how large that has gotten? And again, I can cut this back, and I will. We'll cut it back maybe by half to strip off all of these spent flowers and let it come back again, so that it doesn't get higher and higher, but simply grows back as it's blooming, and then we'll cut it back again. Is gardening effort-free? No. It takes time and energy, but worth it. My garden was just on a garden tour, the Riverside Garden Tour Featured Garden 2024. And now I'm going to walk you back. Let me slow down. Actually, I'm just going to stop the video and I'll walk you back to the backyard, and I'll show you another salvia back there, and I think we'll be there. Welcome to my backyard. Just a quick view of it. I always have running water in the front as well as the back. I am a certified wildlife habitat, and that's one of the requirements, to have fresh water always available. And I only have one salvia that I can show you here, and it's this sweet little one. Do you see that? Now this is a cultivar of Salvia greggii, and Salvia greggii is a very popular and quite diverse salvia, and this is a cultivar that is more compact than the genus, and this one is called Bee's Bliss. Pretty little flower. And again, I cut this back. If you could have seen this at the end of winter, I had it cut back to about 1.5 feet off the ground. And It's doing beautifully and it's filling in this space. Watch my gardening videos if you want to learn more about how to create a diversity of plants that can give you a very interesting garden wherever you are. Just some general lessons will be offered. And that's it. I hope you've enjoyed this. I hope you're having a great day, because I know I am. Bye-bye.